Welcome to Rock and Roll Fridays, a podcast on musical encounters
Welcome to Rock
and
and Roll
life.
Fridays, and I'm so happy to have a guest, Dr. Jim Frankel. You might be the first doctor I have on Rock and Roll Fridays, so welcome.
Yeah, but
Jim.
my doctorate, Michael, isn't worth a whole lot. It's a music education, so
No,
yeah, happy to be here.
No, I think it's probably more important because music's what makes the world go round, right?
That's right.
So you are the head of digital education for Wise Music and the director of Music First.
That's right.
You've been a managing director of Soundtree, and you've been teaching 15 plus years in the New Jersey public school system, music.
That's
Wow.
right.
Wow.
Yeah.
So all music. So my first question is, why music? You could have done anything, right? You could have been a real doctor.
I grew up in a performing arts family. My mother was a very successful singer, dancer, actress on Broadway in the 60s. I ended her Broadway career when I was born in 1970. And then she opened up a dance studio, a very successful dance studio here in suburban New York City. And then my brother and sister became actors, Broadway. My brother is a Blue Man in Blue Man Group. He's done that
cool.
for 17 years. And my sister was in, I think, 14 or 15 Broadway shows before finally aging out, if you will. So I'm the black sheep of the family. I'm the musician. My brother's an incredible musician as well, but I'm the guy that went into teaching music in schools, and then morphed that into the corporate world, where I was just had a wider impact, trying to get teachers excited about music technology.
Yeah, and so talk about Music First. So it's a and I'll try to explain it, and then you can tell me if I'm right or wrong. Software curriculum around supporting teachers that are teaching music in kind of this connected world, right? This digital world. Yep. Is that kind of the gist of it at a very high level?
It is indeed. You know, with Chromebooks and phones being the primary ways kids interact with technology. I built a platform where teachers could connect with those kids, bring high quality music software, all types of software, add in curricular content so teachers know exactly what to do with that software, and put it into a very easy to maintain platform that can be used on any device. One of the worst things a teacher can experience is if a kid can't get to what their homework is or what their assignments are, the software, because, this is an iPhone 8 and it doesn't work on this. So we built a platform that's completely ecumenical.
Yes. So are the days of when I was growing up being handed a plastic flute over, or does technology just add to the real world, holding of instruments and playing of instruments? How does technology affect the teaching of music and students, or are more students interested in learning about music because of technology?
Well, the reality is that whether we like it or not, the kids that are in our classrooms today have been brought up with it. They've had, many, unfortunately, in my opinion, have had iPads as pacifiers since the time they were 18 months old and maybe younger. So when they come into our music classrooms, we're still teaching, analog music, ukulele, recorder, band instruments, strings. We're doing choir. That's never going to go away. But because the kids' brains are wired for technology, and it's the way they've learned the majority of what they come to school when they're in kindergarten with, it's just, in my opinion, another tool in a teacher's handbag or tool bag to get their kids excited about music. So it enhances the experience. It doesn't replace. And I think that a really good music teacher they don't need anything to be a good teacher, but if they want to get kids super amped up and excited about playing an instrument, it's kind of cool when there's a technology application that makes that experience more interesting and engaging for them.
Yeah. And what are some specific examples of how the platform and technology play a role in educating students? Is it kind of a certain approach based on the student's needs, or is it lessons? How does the actual technology work so the student is getting the most out of it?
Yeah, so we have we customize the solution to what the teacher is teaching. So if they're an elementary school band director, for example, then we know exactly what software the typical elementary band director will use really to retain kids in the program, get them excited, get them practicing, getting them playing. And so we have performance assessment software, so the kid can play their trumpet into their Chromebook and it tells them how well they played it, and it gives them a lot of feedback. We've got like recording studio that lives in a Chromebook, so the kids can collaborate with other students and make up their own songs and each record their own tracks. We've got notation software, so they can actually write that down, print it out, and give it to others to play. And, you know, what we do that I'm super proud of at Music First is that we've got 11 different software titles that literally do everything that a music teacher could want. And they cover every aspect of music education. So really, it's, again, it's all about the kids being able to do stuff that they can probably do already on their phones with apps that are out there. But this is the teacher giving kind of relevant and pedagogical content to them.
Right. And overall, like you bring up a great point, like kids being brought up on computers and laptops, not just around music, but all facets of life. What do you see in your experience over the years of where students are because of technology when it comes to music? Are they a little more advanced in their skill set, or is it still that same learning curve? When you pick up a guitar, you got to fight through those first couple chords and then you just practice, right? So I guess my question is, how does technology help or hinder that getting to that point in a musician's life where they're like, wow, I got it, right? Like, I'm really good at this.
It can do both. It could help and it could hinder depending on the use of it. So for example, I've played in a couple of cover bands, and they'll say, oh, we want to play this piece. And I'll try to find the sheet music online, and I'm cheap. And I'm like, I could probably find a YouTube video tutorial of somebody from overhead showing you how to play this keyboard riff. And most musicians that are like weekend warriors like myself, they graduated college a while ago, and they just want to play. That's how they learn, right? So that's human. And I think that kids are the same way. But the challenge is that they're now so distracted by devices and instant gratification. Playing an electric guitar is hard, right? It's not an easy thing. You have to practice to get better at it. Playing the piano, playing a cello, anything, in my opinion, that's worth doing takes work, effort, discipline. That's one of the positive benefits of a music education. So what happens, in my opinion, is a lot of kids, because they can't play guitar immediately, because they played it on Rock Band and they got 1 trillion points, but then they pick up an actual guitar with strings and they can't sound at all. Right. You know, they're playing one finger guitar. They get frustrated and quit easily. So it's a fine balance between motivating kids who are used to kind of instant gratification.
The old saying goes, how do you get the Carnegie Hall,
exactly.
right?
Exactly.
Practice. Yep. So that is a great point. And I think for most of our listeners and people working in the, that example also exists in other facets of life, right?
Yep.
The ability to find information quickly doesn't mean you're going to master that information, right? And,
correct.
I have my own guitar playing career, and I know how hard it is. And, I think what happens in instruments, sports, education, careers, you hit kind of that topping off point where you just can't break through, right? And that's a very interesting situation. And
I mean, take the piano solo. Perfect example. The piano solo in Scenes from an Italian Restaurant by Billy Joel. And I might be aging myself, but my band wanted to play it, and they're like, Jim, can you do it? I was like, oh man, okay, hold on. And I must have watched that video 100 times. I must have paused it 1,000 times. But it really took me woodshedding, sitting at the piano for hours, playing the same lick over and over until I got it like 15 times in a row with no mistakes. And I went, okay, it's now in my muscle memory. And I think that goes true for an 8-year-old as well.
Right. Yeah. So what makes, you deal with teachers, you've been a teacher, what makes a good music education teacher?
That's a great question. And I have a really simple answer. I think every music teacher's job is to make kids lifelong music lovers. That's it, right? It's not to make them a symphony player. It's not to make them a professional musician. because that's like a phys ed teacher trying to make every kid the next Derek Jeter. It isn't going to happen, right? It's such a small number of kids that will be fortunate enough to become professional musicians. Instead, what I've always tried to do, and I say this to tens of thousands of music teachers that I speak with, that your job is to draw the best musician out of the kid you possibly can, make them understand that it's part of being human, and that when they graduate, it may not necessarily be their profession, but it's always going to be there with them. There's earbuds are going to be there when you're on the PATH train into the city or wherever you're going. You know, you're going to be listening to music the rest of your life, and to be able to understand it and appreciate it is my goal as a music educator.
And that is such a great point, because very much like playing sports, you're probably going to end up watching more sports than actually playing more sports as you get older. And with the one thing about digital technology, you know, over the last 15 years, the most music has been produced and listened to. Talk to me about that, because these kids are growing up, you know, with the technology, but also open to all these different types of music, right? You know, nieces and nephews, friends, children, hearing everything from Elvis to rap artists to country. It's all on this little device that they can, you know, and the integration of music into music and video games and sports. They have the opportunity to hear so much than I think we did growing up, based on radio play or, you know, and MTV, which was just a more siloed approach to getting the content.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about your own musical journey, and everybody listening will have one, like, what was the first record you bought? You know it. You instantly know it. And how did you find out about it? Probably from an older sibling or a friend, right? Or somebody at school.
Mm-hmm.
And then, all right, well, then I can trace my path through, all right, well, it was AC/DC, and then it was Led Zeppelin, and then it was Pink Floyd, and then it was the Beatles, and then I went to the Grateful Dead, and I never looked back. Right. I can literally trace the path. The kids today, you know, so a platform like Spotify, for example, is so, I mean, they all do the same kind of thing, but it takes these kids, they have anything at their fingertips. Whereas we had to wait for like Sam Goody for that record to be released, run over to the store, hope they had it wasn't sold out, and bring it home. These kids can literally press it and have a much richer experience in terms of discovering new music. I will always think that people that were born after 1990 will not have the same experience that I did with holding an album cover in my hand, the physical aspect of it, the smell of the record, the smell of the CD when CDs came out. I think that it's an exciting time to be a kid, and also the idea for them to be able to make music on that same phone that they're listening to it on is Star Trek time to me. And I say more power to these kids to express themselves musically, because it's not something that really any of us ever had the fortune to be able to do. I got my first 4-track tape recorder. I had to save up for months to get it, and then I didn't know how to use it. And then I was like, there was no YouTube to be like, hey, this is how you use the Yamaha MT100. I just had to like trial and error it. It's an exciting time to be a kid and a music maker for sure.
So you've been around music for a long time, obviously. Talk to me about any run-ins or kind of one of your stories where you're like, wow, I can't believe I'm in this situation, or I met this person.
All right, my favorite story, and I tell it to everyone. When I first joined the corporate world, I was working for Korg, the synthesizer manufacturer. And then they invited me to the NAMM show out in Anaheim that happens every January. Mm-hmm. And they were like, if you've never been, just wait. And so I went, and of course it's like a freak show outside. There's all these people in costumes trying to get discovered. But when you go on the inside as part of the NAMM like exhibitors, and you're in the insider part of music industry, you go to every booth, and there are people that are famous in the booth. So I'll tell you a real quick one. I went to the Korg booth for the first time, and I see Edgar Winter sitting at a Korg piano playing. And I was like, oh, is that Edgar Winter? And I was like, oh my God, that's pretty cool. That's neat. You know, not the most exciting celebrity for me, but I was like, that's really cool. So I went to find my friend in the chord booth to tell him I just saw Edgar Winter. I go around and there's Carlos Santana playing on a Marshall amp, listening to it. I was like, oh my God, that's Carlos Santana. And now I'm really like desperately trying to find my friend. And I go around the corner and I slammed into Stevie Wonder, literally, right? And I just boom, like chest bumped into him. And I didn't, he's a big guy, by the way. I'm 6 foot tall. He's like 6'5", 6 foot, he's big. And I slammed into him and I said, and your listeners won't believe me, but I will never be able to take these words back. I said, I am so sorry, Mr. Wonder. I didn't see you there. And he laughed and said, that's all right. I didn't see you either. And I wanted to evaporate into the ground. One of my musical, heroes, one of the greatest musicians of the 20th century. Yeah. So that's my little run-in.
That is awesome. Well, Dr. Jim Frankel, this was awesome. And we'll definitely have you back on Rock and Roll Fridays. Thanks very much for your time and information and talking about music technology.
My pleasure. Anytime. Thanks for asking me.